What if I told you that sitting at a crowded Sunday dinner table, with your loving family all around you, could be doing as much damage to your body as smoking 15 cigarettes a day?
That's a genuinely terrifying statistic.
It is. And it's not about being alone in a room. It's about something missing, even when the room is full.
Which is the part that gets under your skin. You can be surrounded and still starving.
You're listening to Paya Talks. Big ideas, both sides, real depth, from Paya Academy.
I'm Dr. Farzan.
And I'm Sophia. Today's question: is loneliness a personal skill you can build, or a problem the whole system stacks against you? It comes from Chapter 5 of The Life Skills Gap by clinical psychologist Leila Sha'akari, called The Loneliness Epidemic Nobody Names.
I'll push back. Calling loneliness a personal skill gap can hide the huge economic and evolutionary forces that isolate us in the first place.
And I'll argue Sha'akari's right. Loneliness is a solvable skill gap, and your own attention is the most powerful lever you have. Let's get into it. Let me lay out why the evidence backs the individual approach. Sha'akari anchors it in arguably the most important study of adult life ever run, the Harvard Study of Adult Development.
The one that started back in the 30s?
1938. Two very different groups, 268 Harvard men and 456 boys from inner-city Boston. And today, under Robert Waldinger, it holds 85 years of continuous data.
Which is almost unheard of in this kind of research.
Basically unheard of. And the headline isn't a soft correlation, it's definitive. The single strongest predictor of your physical health, your happiness, and your sharpness across your whole adult life is the quality of your close relationships.
It outweighs your genes, your bank account, your cholesterol.
So if we take that data seriously, Sha'akari's justified in focusing on one thing the individual can actually build: the skill of real connection. Connection is a learned pattern, not a fixed fate. We have the power to change our own health by changing how we relate to the people right in front of us.
Okay, but I have to push on what we're supposed to do with that data, especially next to the other big body of work Sha'akari brings in, the late John Cacioppo, on the biology of loneliness.
His work redefined it for science.
Completely. He showed loneliness isn't just a sad mood, it's a fierce evolutionary alarm that runs on the same wiring as physical pain. Touch a hot stove, it hurts. You pull back. Wander away from your tribe in the ancient world, you're exposed to predators. So your brain fires the pain of loneliness to drive you back to the group. And when that alarm goes off, your stress chemistry spikes, your blood pressure rises, and your immune system actually shifts to ramp up inflammation. Your body bracing for a wound it assumes is coming.
That's a chilling detail.
And here's my problem. Sha'akari admits we're swimming against powerful economic and digital systems built for individual accumulation and shallow contact. The whole environment is hostile to the kind of connection our biology expects. So, asking one person to switch off a chronic systemic alarm with a 5-minute daily practice, that's a massive mismatch of scale.
Let's see how that alarm actually shows up, because Sha'akari's case study cuts against you. Meet Elena, 42, at a warm Sunday lunch. Husband at one end, 2 teenagers, her mother, her sister. Wine, roast chicken, laughter.
The picture of a happy family.
And Elena is, in Sha'akari's words, suffocated by people. Because sitting right there, she realizes not one person at that table actually knows what's going on inside her.
That's a haunting image. A ghost in a crowded room full of your own family.
And it's my whole point. Her problem isn't a shortage of people. She's taking in 5,000 calories of social contact a day. But it's all emotional junk food. Her body's starving for the one micronutrient that matters. Real vulnerability. That's a skill gap. She and the people around her just don't know how to turn being in the same room into actually being known.
She mentions her mother redirects every conversation back to herself within 90 seconds.
And a husband who hasn't asked her a curious, sustained question in 6 years.
Hold on though. Go back to Cacioppo's alarm. In the ancient world, it switched off the second you got back to the tribe. Cortisol dropped. But Shikari says in modern life, it just runs and runs like the hum of a refrigerator. So, if Elena's surrounded by her tribe, why is her alarm still blaring?
Because she needs the skill.
Because her family is stuck in the same exhausted surface level system she is. The distracted husband, the self-absorbed mother, those aren't just personal flaws. They're symptoms of a culture that pushes everyone toward productivity and away from the slow, unglamorous work of real relationship. Blaming Elena's relational diet is like blaming a fish for not breathing in a polluted tank.
Vivid, but it misses Shakari's whole thesis. She isn't blaming the fish. She's pointing out the fish has gills it forgot how to use. The economy didn't reach into Elena's dining room and stop her husband from asking a real question for 6 years. A calcified relational habit did that.
A habit the environment shaped.
Maybe. But if we just throw up our hands, the system's hostile, the tank's polluted, we leave Elena powerless. Calling it a skill gap gives her agency, a way out that doesn't require dismantling late-stage capitalism first.
But we have to ask why the habit calcified, and that means the psychology underneath. Shakari brings in attachment theory, Bowlby and Ainsworth. Our core patterns, secure, anxious, avoidant, get laid down in infancy from the nervous systems of our earliest caregivers. And the text tells us Elena is avoidant, kind but emotionally unavailable mother.
Which explains a lot.
And I want to be precise, because this isn't just a bad habit, it's brilliant survival software. If a toddler learns that reaching for comfort pushes mom away, the brain writes the code. Showing need is dangerous. It gets me abandoned. So I'll manage my feelings privately to keep her close. Smart at age 3. But Elena's still running that code at 42, which is why she unconsciously chose a husband who fit the pattern perfectly. Kind, busy, distracted, unavailable. Her brain treats vulnerability as a mortal threat. That's decades of wiring. It undercuts the idea of a simple skill gap. You can't just tell her to speak up when her alarm is screaming that speaking up means abandonment.
You're treating attachment like a life sentence. And Shakari directly counters that with neuroplasticity. The software can be rewritten.
Explain how that works here though. Rewriting a survival drive isn't like learning piano.
Mechanically, it's surprisingly similar. Every time you fire a neural pathway, your brain wraps it in a coding that makes it faster and stronger. Elena has a thick, well-built pathway that says vulnerability equals danger. But the research shows insecure patterns can be remodeled through stable, attuned relationships later in life. Every time you risk being vulnerable and the person across from you doesn't punish you for it, you lay down a thin new layer on a new pathway. You slowly teach the alarm that it's safe now.
Slowly being the keyword.
Yes, but look at her actual solution. It wasn't a dramatic life change. She didn't leave her husband or vanish to a silent retreat. She asked for 10 minutes. She sat down and asked him to just listen to her, uninterrupted for 10 minutes. That tiny, terrifying act is the exact mechanism of change, forcing a new pathway to fire.
I won't deny that asking is brave, but look at the other side of the table. Her husband is distracted, probably caught in his own patterns. Asked to suddenly hold space, the odds are he'll fumble, try to fix it or play it down because his own nervous system can't handle the intensity. And when he stumbles, Elena's old software flashes red. See, I knew it wasn't safe. And the whole thing collapses.
But the text tells us what actually happened. He was surprised. He didn't know what to say at first. But he stayed quiet, and he listened, and it was enough. Something that had been quietly hardening between them started to soften that very night. You're fixated on the risk of the attempt. Sha'akaris focused on the necessity of it. Which brings us to the actual tool, the empathy practice. 5 minutes a day. You sit with one person, ask one open question. What's been weighing on you today? And your only job is to pay attention to their inner world.
And the genius is in the rules of what you don't do.
Exactly. You don't jump in with your own similar story. You don't give advice. You don't try to fix it. You don't minimize. Look on the bright side. You don't maximize. That's the worst thing I've ever heard. You just stay present, hold eye contact, and let the person be genuinely heard.
And that's brutally hard because we use conversation to manage our own anxiety. When someone tells you they're struggling, your brain spikes. Am I supposed to fix this? I need to solve it fast so my discomfort goes away. So you interrupt or hand them a platitude. The practice forces you to sit in your own discomfort without dumping it on them.
And remember Maria from earlier in the series? Sitting in her car for years, paralyzed about leaving a job she'd outgrown, carrying it completely alone. Then she finally sits on a friend's couch and just says it out loud. The friend follows the rules and listens. It didn't fix her resume, but it changed the conditions of the burden. It signaled to her brain that she was back in the tribe, dropped the stress, and made the problem possible to think about clearly for the first time.
I'll concede that learning to steady your own anxiety so you can really listen is a necessary tool. But let's scrutinize the maths. If loneliness is now rivaling heart disease in severity, born of a systemic crisis that digitized our interactions and sealed us into separate little economic bubbles, is 5 minutes of eye contact a serious enough intervention? Or is it just palliative care?
Palliative care, come on.
I'm serious. Are we handing people a breathing exercise while the house burns down? If the fridge hum never stops because we no longer live in tight, interdependent communities, 5 minutes of listening doesn't fix the fridge.
I completely disagree with that framing. You're demanding a utopian rebuild of society to treat a wound that's bleeding right now. Go back to Cacioppo's alarm. Your brain doesn't need a village of 150 to switch off the threat. It needs one deeply attuned nervous system to signal safety. 85 years of Harvard data say the quality of your close relationships drives your health, whatever the society around you looks like. We can't dismantle digital monopolies before dinner, but we can lay down new wiring with the person across the table. Wait for the system to change before you learn to connect, and you'll die lonely.
But framing it purely as personal responsibility, a life skills gap, risks turning agency into shame. People are already terrified to admit they're lonely. It feels like a personal failure. Tell them they're smoking the equivalent of 15 cigarettes a day because they lack a skill and haven't done their 5 minutes. And you make them swallow a structural failure as a personal defect.
But I don't see Sha'akari dealing in fault or shame at all. By explaining the evolutionary roots of the alarm, she removes the shame. She tells the reader, you're not broken. Your alarm is doing exactly what millions of years of evolution built it to do. You're having a normal reaction to a very strange modern world. And then, instead of leaving you helpless in front of that world, she hands you the one lever you actually control, your own attention.
I'll grant the agency. The scale still worries me. I'm skeptical a tidy clinical exercise can replicate the deep communal safety the nervous system is hunting for.
It may not rebuild a prehistoric tribe, but the evidence shows it regulates the nervous system. Do it daily for a few weeks, and the temperature of your closest relationships starts to rise. People share more. They tell you things they haven't said in years. You find that listening isn't the boring opposite of talking. It's its own kind of nourishment. You change the whole ecosystem of your immediate life.
And I'll concede, changing your immediate ecosystem is profound. When Elena's husband managed to sit with his own discomfort and just listen, something hardened started to soften. That matters.
So, to land my side, the biology and the systems Shakari lays out are sobering. But her framework is empowering precisely because it puts the lever in the individual's hand. We can't ignore 85 years of Harvard data. Close relationships decide our outcomes. We're swimming against a current that pushes us toward shallow contact. But we can learn to swim differently and make relationships the main event, instead of the thing we get to only once the inbox is empty.
And the empathy practice is necessary, but stay clear-eyed about the scale. Loneliness is a fierce survival alarm demanding communal safety. Treat it only as an individual skill gap, and you risk hiding the economic and digital forces that isolate us to begin with. Do your 5 minutes of real listening, and also name the polluted water we're all swimming in.
Where we fully agree is the heart of it. Sha'akari names a quiet, desperate crisis. We're starving for connection while choking on contact, surrounded by people completely unseen.
And that gap between how much contact we have and how little real connection explains the exhaustion so many adults feel and can't name.
So here's the question to carry to your own kitchen table this week. Before you reach for your phone, who in your life makes you feel genuinely seen? And when was the last time you let them?
If you want to sit with this properly, it's chapter 5 of The Life Skills Gap by Leila Shakri, with more on building real connection over at Paya Academy.
That's it for this episode of Paya Talks. Next time, the quiet resentments that rot a relationship from the inside, and how to catch them.
Until then, keep thinking.